That one really hurt as the Giants were 1 inning, 1 strike, 1 out away from a series sweep of the Rockies and a clear, even first place tie with the Dodgers going into LA, but it wasn't meant to be. LA, or the Rockies actually, hand the Giants a taste of their own medicine. Oof.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and RotoGraphs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, hosting this show for over 6 years, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, so check us out there if you have not already. And please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And coming up on today's show, like I said, heartbreak in Denver. The Rockies hand the Giants a very difficult loss, and the Giants get a taste of their own medicine. Doesn't taste so good, but they've been doing it to other teams all year long. And despite the very rough ending, though, we're going to get into the many positives to take away from this series in Denver, get you set for the series in Los Angeles with the Giants going in there next, and then also get into the implications of Patrick Bailey joining Matt Chapman on the injured list. Two of the Giants' better position players, two of the Giants' better defenders, and defense came into play in this fateful bottom of the ninth in Colorado, which is where we start today. Giants fall to the Rockies 8-7, despite leading 7-5 going into the ninth and 4-0 in the second inning and 7-2 in going into the bottom of the sixth. And so this was a game that you want to say they had well in hand, but it is Coors Field, and it's always scary there, and no lead really feels safe, although it did feel pretty safe when it was 7-3, 2 runs tacked on in the bottom of the seventh, charged to Sean Jelly. So that was big. Jelly got 1 out, gave up 2 hits and a walk. Eric Miller cleaned it up, and Ryan Walker pitched a really clean 8th, but Randy Rodriguez, of all people, gives up the 3 runs in the bottom of the ninth, but it was really, it was 2 things. It was actually 3, I would say. The strike zone was miserable all day long for both sides, but I do think ultimately the Giants were more affected by it. There was a lot of potential strike threes, at least 2 and maybe 3 or 4 strike threes in the zone that got called balls. Like, these were not super borderline. Like, some of them were just clearly in the zone. And Randy Rodriguez, it happened to him at one point in that ninth, and I want to say it was a guy he ended up walking. And it should have been a strike in that at bat, so it changed the whole thing. Maybe he didn't end up walking that guy. I can't remember, but the strike zone was not good. And then also the mound at Coors. You have so many things going against you as a pitcher, as a defense at Coors Field. You've got the thin air, so the ball travels better. You've got the huge park, which they made because of the thin air and the ball traveling better, so a lot of hits fall in front of outfielders. You've got a fast infield, which I think is fast largely because of the dry air, which dries out the dirt, which makes it hard, which makes the ball skip through quicker. And then actually there were 2 critical defensive miscues in that ninth inning with Elliot Ramos, and he kind of booted a ball in left that turned probably a single into a double, and that ended up being the winning run. I believe Tyro Estrada at second base there being the winning run. And also then his throw went into second base and nobody was there. And I think it was a good accurate throw, but nobody was there to catch it. And potentially you get him at second base, but it was bobbled initially. And then the biggest play of the game probably ends up being what would have been a game-ending double play hit to Casey Schmidt, at least getting one out for sure on that ground ball. He just boots it and gets nobody out in a key bases loaded situation in the bottom of the ninth. So in that situation, I want to just make sure I'm exactly right here. So Randy Rodriguez got the first guy out, but you could just tell he was struggling with command the whole time. So I'm not sure I already mentioned this, but the slope of the mound, they were talking about it it was Javier Lopez, I think, who brought it up. And, he's a recent-ish player. And so that you take that very seriously. There's so many pitchers. One other thing, breaking balls don't move well there either. So many things going against you, but there were a lot of fastball misses as well. And like Randy Rodriguez, he had 3 walks all year coming into this game, and he walked 2 in this inning, in 2/3 of an inning, and he was a full count, 1 pitch away from walking in the tying run. So he almost doubled his season total in 2/3 of an inning. He was 1 pitch away. So that just goes to show you how tough. I don't think it was just him being off. I think it had everything to do with the environment. And, the Rockies have to deal with that half the time. It's fortunate to not be a Rockies fan and have to deal with that all the time. But they do get used to it to some extent. However, so they get the first out, a deep fly out to center, but then there's a walk. And looking back at the pitches in that walk, they were all called correctly, it seems. Yeah, they were all called correctly. So then Tyro Estrada doubled. It looks like all the pitches were called correctly there. And then Ryan McMahon walked. Looks like all the pitches were called correctly there. So just double checking on that. And then here was the big one. Ground ball to Casey Schmidt. Brenton Doyle, pretty sure he's one of their fast runners, hits a ground ball, just like a routine-ish ground ball to third. It did take kind of a high hop, but Schmidt had enough time to react to it. I don't know if he took his eye off the ball, but up 7-5, bases loaded, and you just got to get an out there, because turns out the next batter struck out. So if you just get one out there, yeah, it maybe changes the at-bat that follows, so you can't say for sure the same outcome would have happened. But to just get no outs and all of a sudden it's a 1-run lead and the bases are still loaded was just absolutely critical. So Schmidt made an incredible play the previous game, and he's known as a very good defender. He doesn't play a lot. That is fair to point out that he hasn't had a ton of reps at third base at all at the major league level, even though that is by far his best position. But that ended up just being a huge error. They also made some what could have been costly, very costly, blatant defensive mistakes that ended up not mattering, like Gerard Encarnacion in the previous game just dropping a ball that was thrown right to him at first base. You just almost never ever see that. It was just a throw from second base to first base, and he just did not catch it, and it ended up costing them at least a run, I believe, and then many pitches for Robbie Ray after that. So Randy Rodriguez then got Hunter Goodman to strike out, threw a lot of strikes in that at bat, but did throw a couple balls. And then Orlando Arcia, let's see, there was a close pitch on the third pitch, which would have been strike 3, but it was just outside. And then he couldn't throw his slider for a strike the whole inning, it seemed, because of that, the mound, and also the fact that breaking balls, some guys just have a really hard time throwing breaking balls. They just don't move the same at Coors because of the thin air. And Randy Rodriguez was a 1-pitch guy, and Arcia saw just enough fastballs to time it up and hit a line drive to left. And with the runners going, because it was a full count, it was an easy score from second, and that was the winning run, and the tying run scores from third. So 1 strike away from an even tie with the Dodgers, and the Giants lose it. But they've done this to many teams themselves. So we'll get into the positives to take away from this series and get you set for LA and discuss Patrick Bailey in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you in part by FanDuel. The NBA Finals are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. The thrill of potentially winning $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits is exhilarating. Take it from me, from personal experience. It adds just so much in addition to what's already an exciting and thrilling game to be watching anyway. So are you new to FanDuel? It's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, here we go. We're going to not dwell forever on the negatives here, as the Giants suffered a really tough loss down to, or one strike away, I should say, from finishing off a sweep. They would have been 41-28, exactly the same record as the Dodgers going into LA for their first meeting with LA all season long. Crazy, on June 12th. That's the new schedule for you, but it was not to be. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, coming up tomorrow, we're going to get to your mailbag questions that many of you submitted earlier this week. I wasn't able to get to them. I kind of foolishly overbooked myself thinking I would be able to do that. Had a personal matter that was unavoidable on, I think it was Tuesday. And so we're going to get to your questions tomorrow. So anyway, it wasn't all negative. I mean, even in this game, there were so many positives. Like I said, the Giants led 7-2. I did think it was a little bit overextending Hayden Birdsong to send him back out there for a sixth inning, but he got through it pretty easily, but he gave up a homer. And so that run ended up being big. But I don't know. I feel like the bullpen was pretty rested. Like Javier Lopez was saying, Randy Rodriguez had not pitched since Sunday. And so he mentioned rust as a possibility. And so when you've got a guy who's arguably been like the best reliever in baseball, you should never be talking about rust with him. Like, if he's healthy and feeling good, you should use this guy. These games at Coors have been tight and, it's never easy there. And so, yeah, they did ultimately use him here, but maybe if there was rust, then you can kind of look at the fact that he wasn't used at all when these were tight, tense games all the way through. And Randy Rodriguez ended up needing to throw 43 pitches. He only threw 23 strikes. So it was a battle out there, 43 pitches. I mean, I would say, definitely not going to pitch tomorrow. Be shocked if he pitches tomorrow. Ryan Walker only needed 8 pitches to get through his inning. Eric Miller threw 12. Sean Jelly threw 16. Hayden Birdsong threw 104. So I don't know. I'm assuming Doval was definitely not available 2 days in a row, and I don't know about Rogers. But anyway, they sent Birdsong back out there. But my point is that Birdsong pitched a heck of a game in Denver. It ends up being 3 runs in 6 innings. They do call that a quality start, even though that is a 4.50 ERA. We don't pay much attention to the stat quality starts here, especially because it's a 4.50 ERA. Like, that wouldn't, I get the point. Like, you went 6 innings, 3 runs. It is solid, but at Coors, that's definitely a quality start, is the point I'm trying to make. But it was 5 innings, 2 runs, and the home run that he allowed was not hit very hard. But so anyway, I'm just trying to say Hayden Birdsong had a really nice outing today, and it gets wasted. They've done that a lot this year where they have wasted good starts. Their pitching has been the strength of this team for sure. And therefore, a lot of games, they've wasted good pitching because their offense has struggled for sure. Even though they've also done a great job of coming back in games, it's often been because their bullpen has just shut people down and it's given the Giants the chance to come back. But we'll get to some of the numbers in a bit, as the Giants' second game of the series, just like the first, was another multiple run comeback. So Birdsong, with this outing, his ERA went up to 2.79 now. He's made 5 starts and he's appeared in 16 games. So because this game was today, the stats for me haven't updated on. I can't check and see his total statistics in the 5 starts. I can tell you what they were in the previous 4, and we can kind of look at then what does this one add to that. So yeah, he had a 2.84 ERA, 2.24 fielding independent pitching, 3.61 expected fielding independent pitching. He hadn't allowed a home run in any of his starts until today. So now he allows 1 homer, but he's done a great job in the starting rotation. And with Justin Verlander getting closer to being back, I don't think Hayden Birdsong is at any risk of being the guy to get taken out of the rotation. I do expect that it will be Kyle Harrison, who pitched the opener, gave up a couple of home runs in that outing. But anyway, it was just a great outing for Birdsong. 6 innings, kind of cruised. 104 pitches, 67 strikes, got squeezed by the umpire at least one time. He had a guy struck out, and then it ended up being a walk. And so he ends up striking out 6 and walking 2, but really could easily be 7 strikeouts, 1 walk. The umpire, Ramon de Jesus, no, that was the third base umpire. It was Edwin Jimenez today behind the plate. Like, I can't wait to see the umpire scorecard. I'll be interested to see. I do want to say intuitively, I think it's going to show significant advantage for the Rockies in this game in terms of how it was umpired. And part of that could be Patrick Bailey. I mean, you're without the best framer in baseball over the last few years in Bailey, and that makes a big impact. There's a reason that we're talking about how Bailey has a lot of value even when he's not hitting at all. It's largely pitch framing. And so you're just not getting that same level of pitch framing when Bailey's not out there. But Birdsong was a big positive. Ryan Walker with his good inning was a big positive. Willy Adames having a nice series was a huge positive because Matt Chapman goes on the injured list and they need somebody to fill that void. And specifically just Willy Adames, they need him to live up a little bit to the contract that they gave him. I know it's early, like you could even have a rough year and then still bounce back. 6.5 more years left on this contract. So a lot of time left to evaluate it. But just for the sake of this season, to get something out of Willy Adames is huge. And he had a big series here after Bob Melvin sitting him on Sunday, and then they had a built-in off day on Monday. So he got 2 days off, and then he came into Denver and just had a monster series. Today, he ended up going 1 for 4 with a walk, and the one hit was a single. When I look at the box score, the Giants only had 2 extra base hits in this game. It felt like they had more. They also only made 1 error, by the way, and it was that critical one, like at the worst time. But they ruled that ball that was hit to Ramos a double. I don't know how you can quite give him a double. He bobbled it and nobody covered second, but I don't know. I think that's a single and an error. But the Giants walked 7 times. So they had 11 hits and 7 walks. So with some more extra base hits, you're probably looking at, you could have blown this game open. They did have some like first and second, nobody out situations and not come through. But ultimately, the big takeaway on the positive end was, I would say, Willy Adames. Robbie Ray battled and ended up giving up 4 runs, only 2 earned. That was the the Gerard Encarnacion drop at first, which was inexplicable. And also, Dominic Smith. He hit a big home run today. So he had a really nice game today, Dominic Smith. 3 for 4 with a homer and a walk. So huge monster game, and that home run looked like it was going to be decisive, but it ultimately was not. But the Giants, after their comeback yesterday, so they were down, you could say the same as I'm talking about how heartbreaking this was for the Giants. The Giants did this to the Rockies twice in this series. The difference is the Rockies are 12 or 13 now and 55. So the Giants were up 3-0, but then fell behind 4-3. Then it was 5-3. Then it was 6-3 Rockies going to the 8th. And the Giants put up a 4 spot to take a 7-6 lead, 3 spot in the 10th to go ahead 10-6, and then gave up 1 in the 9th to make it 10-7. So for the Giants, who trailed 6-3, they have, according to Sarah Lang, she says, most wins when trailing by multiple runs in the first 68 games the last 125 seasons. Only the 1979 Orioles have had more through 68 games with 18 wins when trailing by multiple runs through their first 68 than the Giants, who had 17, and that was tied with the Rockies. The 2000 Rockies. So the Giants were 1 win shy of tying the record for the most wins when trailing by multiple runs in the first 68 games of a season ever in the last 125 years of baseball. And Langs points out that no other team this season has more than 13. This was entering today. So the Giants have 17. Nobody else has more than 13. So the next closest team is 4 wins behind when trailing by multiple runs. So the Giants are first when it comes to 2+ run deficits overcome and won, and they're first in 3+ run deficits overcome. And I think they have 9 of those with 3 runs. So, it's just the way that they've been able to do that is remarkable, but they did definitely get a taste of their own medicine today. Rockies overcame a 5-run deficit. I feel like if this game is played anywhere else, you're not going to give that up. Had a lot to do with the ballpark, but hey, also give the Rockies credit. They did battle there in the 9th and won fair and square. Just stings a little bit, as you would have been tied with the Dodgers and you would have been coming off a sweep, but we can't live in what if land. So we'll stick in reality. And one of the realities is that the Giants have now had not just 1, but 2 of their most important position players land on the injured list in a matter of a few days, with Patrick Bailey going on the IL. So what is the outlook there? What corresponding move was made? And how does this impact the Giants moving forward, going into LA, a very tough place to play for sure? We'll get into it in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode of Locked on Giants is brought to you in part by Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merchandise, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. For me, the lowest price guarantee, coupled with being able to see the seats in the app before I buy, knowing exactly where I'll be, is a game changer, no pun intended. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, here we go. We're going to get into the Giants losing another one of their valuable position players to the injured list, along with Matt Chapman. Patrick Bailey goes down. What's the outlook there? How big of an impact does this have? Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers coming up tomorrow, we'll be able to get to those mailbag questions. So thanks again for sending those in. And apologies again for not being able to get to those on Tuesday. I thought I was going to be able to, but just wasn't. So the Giants now head to LA, a game back. It stings because that's a tough place to play. And you kind of assume, I don't want to just assume this and throw this out into the universe, but if you can just win one there, you'll feel okay. Like, you just want to, like, expecting to win a series on the road against the Dodgers is, you should never, I mean, you should always want that, but as a fan, like, objectively, it wouldn't be shocking, let's just say, to lose 2, but to come away with 1. And that's why if you could sweep the Rockies, then you could end up still going 4-2 on the road trip by losing 2 out of 3 in LA. But now even if you lose 2 out of 3, I should say, then it's just a 500 road trip. So it was a big one today for me, I think. And again, just a chance to go into LA with the exact same record at 41-28, but it was not to be. And in the wildcard standings, just to briefly update you, the Giants are the number 1 wildcard team up to the moment. And the other teams involved, nobody else is playing today, the teams that are in that position. So the Giants will go into LA as the number 1 wildcard team, and they do have a 3.5 game lead against or over a playoff spot, with the Cardinals playing the Brewers later on today. The Brewers are just a half game behind the Cardinals, so it's kind of good that they're playing each other. One of them is going to lose, so that's a good thing in a way. So Patrick Bailey lands on the injured list with what the Giants are calling a neck strain. So he was scratched from the first game in Denver, and then before the second game, the Giants basically determined that they just couldn't be without a second catcher, if Bailey was not going to be available. So they had to make a move, and they didn't have any other catchers on the 40-man, as Sam Huff was DFA'd recently, and then he cleared waivers and was outrighted back to the minors. But he's dealing with, I think, a back strain, and so they ended up selecting the contract of Logan Porter, but they had to add him from the 40-man, so they had to make a corresponding 40-man move. So they DFA'd infielder Oslavis Basabe, who they picked up in the offseason. Was it in a trade, or was it a little minor league signing? Yeah, they acquired him in a trade in February from the Tampa Bay Rays for cash. So Basabe gets DFA'd. He was struggling in AAA, hitting 242, 287 on base, 352 slugging. So solid chance he goes unclaimed, and it looks like he had never been outrighted. And so if he clears waivers, it looks like the Giants could just send him back to AAA without his consent, I believe, looking at his transaction log from his time with the Rays. So anyway, it's kind of a minor point. But point is, they call up Logan Porter, who he started today, and then he picked up a big 2-out hit that drove in a run. Porter is 29 years old. I don't have like a full-on scouting report on him. He was hitting okay in AAA. He was with the Kansas City Royals organization for a long time. He's got a little bit of major league experience, and not enough for me to really go off of. Looks like maybe he's a good framer. I don't even see a scouting report on FanGraphs from his time as a prospect, which means he was kind of a non-prospect, but he's just a catcher. He's probably not going to shock the world or anything like that. And as soon as Patrick Bailey comes off the IL, you could definitely see him. He does have minor league options, so they probably would just option him now that he is on the 40-man. So anyway, the point is they're without Bailey, who in a game like today, like who knows, maybe just that little extra bit of framing ability, maybe he gets a couple of those calls that Porter wasn't able to get. I didn't think Porter framed them poorly. They were just missed calls by the home plate umpire. But Bailey going into LA, like you need every advantage you can get. And so even though Bailey's not hitting, these guys, Logan Porter, and it's not even occurring to me who the other catcher currently is it's Andrew Kisner, right? So the Giants have two relatively anonymous catchers right now on their roster. So not having Bailey, even though he's not hitting, stings, in addition to not having Matt Chapman. Those two guys, like if they have them today, they might win that game. If Chapman's out there, not only do you get potentially offense, but also I'm pretty sure he doesn't make that error, and you probably get a game-ending double play on that play. At the very least, you get one. And I'm not ragging on Schmidt, who also, I want to say, like, besides that, he had a nice series with the bat and with the glove. Like I said, he made an incredible play to his right and throwing on the run away from first base, like totally in the third base coaching box across his body, throw to get the runner going to first. Amazing play in the second game of the series. And I just was impressed with his at-bat quality throughout the entire series. So I'm not trying to come across as ragging on Casey Schmidt. It's just that Matt Chapman happens to be a very good player, and there's a reason they gave him over $150 million. He's a all-star caliber player. And so when you go into LA and you're as close as they are right now, you want to have your best team out there, but they're losing two of their better position players amongst a group that has not been the greatest group on the position player side. So it's going to take a lot. It's going to take everyone pulling on the same rope going into LA. LA is a good team, but Giants were one strike away from having the exact same record as them. So it's not like LA is invincible. Although you are the road team, LA is the home team, and the Dodgers, as good as the Giants have been at home, the Dodgers are, I think, one win better. Dodgers are 23-11 at home, Giants 22-11. So it's a tough place to go play, but you never know what's going to happen in baseball, and we'll find out how this series is going to go, and we'll find out starting tomorrow. Anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Once again, my name's Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out a lot, so thank you in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again tomorrow, getting to your mailbag questions. Thanks again for listening. Today, you are now Locked On Giants.